Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. Tonight we have a lot to go over tonight. Let's start over at thegrandsolarminimum.com. We'll take a look at our website where you'll find all of the links for tonight's show right here at thegrandsolarminimum.com. And just some crazy footage, but it's nothing new. Over the last 7 to 10 days, we have seen pictures like this all over the Midwest, central part of the United States. So it just seems like this is just continuing over and over again. But let's get right into it real quick. Space weather news: solar wind speed sitting at a 432.4 kilometers per second with a density of 9.9. Let's go ahead and check it out on our space weather section here at thegrandsolarminimum.com. Take a look at KP indices, slight activity up to a 3. Again, solar proton flux is quiet. The sun is blank once again. And looking at our sun in motion here, the SDO, we do have an Earth-facing coronal hole that is turning away from Earth now. And what we see in the very far part of the eastern limb are a couple of bright organized spots. We will keep our eyes on those to determine whether those become official sunspots or not, as we have seen spotless days now over the past, let's see, we'll get the information straight from SPACEWEATHER.com, 9 days in a row without sunspots, and this is now a 83 days for 2019 on days without sunspots. KP indices, like I said, was at a 3. We are expecting an increased amount of solar wind. The speeds will be elevated sometime around May 29th from these coronal holes that we see here, located here in the image at spaceweather.com. Let's take a look at our TSI reading for May. I believe this is the 17th. Came in at a 1360.64. So really, ever since we had the big dip in TSI and the missing data, which is very confusing, but really since the big dip, we've kind of seen readings stay consistently in the 0.6 values. So no real big changes. And before we get into tonight's broadcast, let's take a look at the live radar right now. Parts of Chicago, get ready. Some rough weather ahead. Peoria, you're on the path right now as well. Kirksville getting it now. Kansas City is getting out of this, but the amount of rain that was falling during a live shot on Weather Channel was incredible. Puddles up to your ankles easily, and the parking lots overflowing onto the sidewalks of this one particular place they were located at. And the one thing that went through my mind was how familiar these puddles are starting to look and all around us. And I know most of us probably can say we've seen and witnessed these heavy downpour rains of how much we've had over the past several days. It doesn't take much for it to puddle now, and it doesn't take much for it to flood. And I think even up parts of where I live, people are not used to seeing this kind of rain falling that quick, and seeing, especially when your sidewalks and streets are completely underwater, which we've already witnessed at least once in the past 2 weeks. Familiar pictures all over, though. Jam-packed with information tonight, guys. Let's lead with this story in Ohio. DP&L over 400 out-of-state crews to help in addition to 300 DP&L employees. So, as we know right now, the big tornado last night, a little over 50,000 Dayton Power Light customers remain without power as of 5 p.m. this evening. They say at least 3 EF3 tornadoes hit the Miami Valley Monday night. EF3 tornadoes confirmed in Montgomery County, Beaver Creek, that's in Greene County as well. About 70,000 customers were without power at the height of the storm. The crews pretty much will be working around the clock for sure after this one, but guys, this is just the tip of it. Power outages everywhere, school closures. What's surprising about this storm is I just think that the overnight nature of these things just catch you off guard. And we've been talking about them for 7 to 10 days on this channel. And I think why tonight it kind of hits a little closer to home for me, because this is where I'm from. I've lived there all my life. I've only lived here in New York for almost 3 years now. I've spent my entire life in the Dayton area, Xenia, Beaver Creek, Dayton. Everything that we're talking about tonight, I have friends and family that are affected with this right now. And the damage is incredible. Everyone knows about the 1974 tornado outbreak. Xenia, Ohio, was affected the worst by it. Unfortunately, 33 people lost their lives, over 300 injured. We haven't seen that kind of injury or death reports at this point. Right now, we've only had one confirmed death, and that was in the Salina area. An 81-year-old man was killed by a vehicle that had been flung into his home while he was asleep. Extensive damage after multiple powerful tornadoes hit the Dayton area. Look at this. Dayton, Ohio, getting some love on watchers.news. I've never thought in my entire life that I would see Dayton, Ohio being featured on a worldwide website that talks about natural disasters and climate catastrophes worldwide. This is a very bizarre set of words I'm saying. Folks, bear with me here. I apologize. At least one large and destructive tornado, E3, they're saying EF3 right now, ripped through the city of Dayton. Communities late Monday night, around 11 p.m. Damage surveys are still in progress for at least 3 suspected tornadoes in the area. The first tornado touchdown around 11:07 local time. Tornado emergency warning. The highest weather service issues. National Weather Service called it a life-threatening situation as the tornado swept through a heavily populated area. The second tornado hit about 30 minutes later, around 11:30. National Weather Service Storm Survey has confirmed at least one EF3 with winds up to 140 miles per hour in Beaver Creek, that's in Greene County, Ohio. At least one person was killed in Salina, authorities said. A large dangerous tornado touched down last night in northwest Montgomery County. We are focused on supporting life-saving measures such as shutting down gas lines or locating people who are trapped by debris. I did see on local Miami Valley tweets that there were people trapped overnight in some of these structures. Thankfully, only minor injuries, guys. And we'll leave the video links here. Actually, Weather Nation isn't unfriendly to us. This is parts here. This is Clayton, Ohio, a suburb of Dayton near Inglewood and the Union Township areas, a rural community. So to see this kind of damage, just roofs just rip right off. Again, we've seen this damage for the last 7 to 10 days throughout Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas. I'm probably forgetting a few others. But it really hits home when you see damaged footage of your own town, where you're from, where you live. Even if you still currently reside there, it's a shock that you don't want to go through. Lots of structures and buildings are not recognizable anymore. I saw a couple of videos. My son sent me a few videos today just driving around and looking at all the damage. It looks like a war zone. Here is the actual path here of destruction of these tornadoes, where they think they have 3. We can clearly see that, I believe. I believe this is probably all from the one tornado right here. This is tornado number 2, and this is tornado number 3. Obviously, that's their paths. Obviously, the one up top went the furthest. That's the one that did the most damage. We're talking about cities like Arcanum, very rural, Laura, Ohio, Also a very rural community. So every area where these storms hit, we're in decent populations, but nothing dense. Again, these were farming rural communities out here. Pleasant Hill, New Madison, Phillipsburg. On the outer edges of Dayton, you have Englewood, Clayton, Brookville, Lewisburg. Those areas, they're still rural communities, but what's impressive is seeing how much tornadic damage we have in the immediate parts of the greater Dayton area. In fact, let's go ahead and I can tell you right now, just by looking at this map, areas like Riverside, pretty good population there. Shiloh, Huber Heights, just south of Huber Heights. My brother lives in Huber Heights, and about a mile down the road is damaged streets, power poles down. It totally night and day from where he's at. But these are areas down here that we've zoomed in that have a decent amount of people that live in their area and their towns and their cities. The east side, the north and the east side of Dayton, to me, a very dense area. And I'll go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. And a lot of damage in here as well. A lot of these are older buildings too. A lot of older infrastructure, power poles and stuff like that. I know some old army bases, base housing where roofs were ripped off in that community. And what's crazy is that area that we saw that damage right where I'm pointing my arrow is right there on the edge of the valley. And, you know, for it to be that close to the top, this area literally is at the top of the hill. Once you go down here towards downtown, this road just becomes one giant hill all the way down to the city. So to see all this tornadic damage just skip past the valley, not go any further south, is amazing and a blessing at the same time. But these areas definitely not used to seeing this kind of activity. Not an EF3. It seems like Xenia has the X marks the spot, no pun intended. And we've seen quite a few tornadoes in Xenia in the 80s, early 2000s. We had a couple different. So, I mean, that area is not unfamiliar with this. But so many headlines to talk about with these storms. And like I said, when you are experiencing it in your own backyard or from an area that you know and love, it definitely opens your eyes up a little bit more, and it's just a little bit more shocking. Again, here's more footage of the Dayton area tornado. Salina, again, that was the most damage, and also injuries with 1 death. So 7 injuries, 3 are serious condition, but not life-threatening from what I understand. And I hate to say it, but once again, we are on the lookout in Ohio, this time past the northeastern part of Ohio into western Pennsylvania. But this time the severe threat is just above the Salina area, right there by St. Mary's, above Columbus, and going across the central, northern central parts of Ohio. And it does appear that our radar is fading out. So tonight, the threat is over for what we hope severe weather across the area that we just suffered it just hours prior. But believe it or not, and we'll talk more about this here in a minute, there is more severe weather on the way to this region. Quickly, let's take a look. Here is a quick look at the 8.0 earthquake that struck in Peru. Just take a look at that. It says it all. Peru was devastated by a magnitude 8.0 earthquake that spread hundreds of miles early Sunday, the biggest in the world so far this year. Buildings collapsed and roads were torn up as the quake hit at 2:41 a.m. in the village of Lagunas in the Amazon jungle, with trembles reported almost 500 miles away, the capital in Lima, as well as neighboring Colombia and Ecuador. And also, Maury brought this to my attention the other day. Before this earthquake, there was a 6.7 earthquake that was out in Colombia, and nobody was talking about it. And Maury was concerned with it's a strong quake to be that in the middle of the land as it was, not anywhere near the coast. So it was on land, no one's really talking about it, and then we have this powerful 8.0, and now they finally mentioned something in Colombia and Ecuador, but still 6.7 just a couple days before this. While locals posted images of the devastation with people running and screaming into the streets, there were no initial reports of deaths. The president says, "I ask of all citizens to remain calm." The strong telluric movement that occurred early this morning was felt in several regions of the country. "We are evaluating the affected areas," he wrote. Local firefighters shared video of a devastation with people wandering the streets. The mayor of Leganes said many residents were too scared to go back in their homes. There's fears of aftershocks. Popstar here was quoted a couple things, but basically, big scare. 8.0, big scare. No serious injury or death were reported, which was the only good news about this story. And here we are talking about Australia, Canberra, or Canberra, however you pronounce that. I do apologize if I butchered your pronunciation here, which, you know, we tend to do that here at the Grand Solar Minimum. But hey, there is a lot of towns and cities and countries and continents and all that good stuff out there. So bear with us, folks. Shivers through the coldest May in 19 years. Those in Australia's southeast have entered the second day of freezing conditions, and it looks like icy conditions are set to stick around for the next few days. Now, before I go any farther, it is winter, or it is approaching winter right now, but it's not quite officially winter yet. So that's the reason. I mean, I'm not trying to justify if there is any kind of misleading sensationalist going on here. But it is still a little bit early for what they're experiencing. It says a mass of polar air following behind a cold front blasted parts of the... Wait a minute. This was okay, sorry about that. Yesterday, Canberra residents shivered through their coldest May day since 2000, reaching a maximum of just 9.1 degrees Celsius. Wild weather, including snow, thunderstorms, and damaging winds, blasted their lower parts of the country's east. Australia's ski resorts have had their first major snowfall for the year, with more to come over the next few days. So, again, like I said, this is heading into their winter season, but still a little early, and they're getting their first major snowfall approximately about 3 weeks early, it looks like. It says Perisher received an extra 20 centimeters of snowfall overnight, bringing its total to 40 centimeters, while Thredbo is at 20 centimeters and counting. At least 25 centimeters of snow has fallen in Hotham Alpine Resort in Victoria, and 30 centimeters more expected to fall over the coming days. Meteorologist of Bureau of Meteorology Zhe Wing Chua told News.com more snow is likely to fall in those areas in the next few days. Check this out. Heavy snowfall. Either way you put it, we're looking at a cold and snowy start to Australia's winter. And from what I've been told, whenever you see what's going on in Australia, is what it should be expecting in the northern hemisphere winter as well, at least in North America. So, not looking forward to the beginning of this winter. So many things, folks, that we've talked about on this channel. Grand Solar Minimum related. What is Grand Solar Minimum? And, you know, how does this have anything to do with anything? And this channel, website that we have, thegrandsolarminimum.com, we try to point you in the right direction. We give you all the resources, we give you all the evidence, we provide articles, peer-reviewed papers, outstanding interviews, Valentina Zarkova, work of John Casey, David Dilley. By the way, we've got a really special treat. I think I'm going to keep it to myself right now, but you guys will be very excited about some really great stuff coming up, about information getting out worldwide, and Zarkova being involved, and that's all we're going to say right now. So, but we will fill you in more as we gain the details, but there's important work to be done in the meantime. But this is part of what we've been talking about with cosmic ray influx, and that adding, particulates to cloud nucleation to accumulate more precipitation, snow, rain, you name it, hail. Yesterday, during the storm, or this morning actually, my brother, who lives in Huber Heights, Ohio, checked out his car. He didn't see it last night, but this morning there was little tiny hail divots. The hail is so incredible. He says he's never seen anything like it before. And he instantly told me, he said, as soon as he saw the hail accumulation on the ground. Now, mind you, it's been in the 70s and 80s in the Dayton area. They're in full swing of summer. So it looked like snow was on the ground, he said. And then this morning to see his car completely riddled in hail damage, realizing that the things that I was talking about on this channel, what's funny about, I guess there's nothing funny about this, but what's bizarre for him, I guess, my brother and I got into a discussion a couple weeks ago. He had mentioned to me that none of this worldwide weather stuff mattered to him. It didn't affect his life directly. No big deal. Doesn't bother me, and it doesn't affect me. I get to go to work tomorrow here in Huber Heights, Ohio. You're absolutely correct. But now it's happened in your own backyard. And now you might understand the small taste of what I'm trying to explain to you. And it's not to be fearsome or to scare, but to be prepared. And don't get caught with your pants pulled down around your ankles without a plan, without knowing what to do or what's happening or what's coming next. This channel is simply about awareness. And we have taken a look at the work of people like Zarkova and Casey and compared it to the science that is telling us that what's causing cooling, what's causing the hail increase, the precipitation increase, the snow, records amount, cold temperatures. Sure, we have hot wave. We're still having heat waves. We're baking down in the southeast right now. Parts of Australia were baking too last summer for them. In fact, somebody actually tried to say that the GSM wasn't real because of how hot it was in Australia during their summer. So, before it has to take place in your own backyard, guys, try to pay attention. Try to understand, for those of you who are new to this channel, that what you've been told about consensus science and consensus climate change is kind of just propaganda that's being fed to you. And I know you're probably thinking, well, how can you prove that? And there's tons of examples and issues. Scott and I were talking, a gentleman that gave us the wonderful presentation of the Grand Solar Minimum 101, and talked about how he got a letter from a teacher who teaches chemistry high school in California. And he remembers back in 1996 heading out to a sort of like a workshop for science teachers. And they were pushing global warming, man-made, global warming, man-made. And that's it. I mean, they showed them all these neat little tricks and experiments to do in classes and sent him on back to school to teach it. And I think us here at this channel, we're trying to raise that awareness that, guys, that's not what's happening. And if you continue to pay attention to that narrative, you're going to end up hurting yourself in the future. It could mean the difference between you eating and not eating. And you can take it however you want, but it's the truth. Scott also pointed out another thing alarming about today's exciting news. It's alarming when you have people like Zarkova who are trying to gather people around to get the message out, not just locally, but worldwide. And the vision that she has right now about getting the information out. Guys, this is where I start to feel like that everything that we've done at this channel is leading up to a situation like this, where it's coming together. This is gaining more and more traction than we've ever seen it since we've started talking about this in the last 3 years. And it's good to see the community finally getting some big traction. I know there's a lot of you out there that put in the work. Ice Age Farmer, David Dubine, what's his name? Old Diamond over there. Everybody does
Starman.
something. What's that?
Starman.
Well, of course, Starman. Let me stop right here, guys. I'm getting way off basis here, but I want to say this first of all. I have to publicly announce this. Thank you so much to David, the Starman, aka TSM Solar Observations. There has been so many times that David has brought things to my attention. And not only did he bring it to my attention, but gathered my interest. And I became aware and eager to study this on my own and follow certain things on my own. I have nothing but the uttermost respect and the credit that he deserves. Because, guys, there's a lot of inside work that happens on this channel. A lot of people contribute. But nobody has been there more for us than the Starman. This guy's been here from day one and has traveled this journey with us over the last 3 years. We've had our ups and we've had our downs. But if it wasn't for Dave, I think he was part of the reason why I was able to keep my patience and understand what was going on and realize the really big picture of what was going on around us and what opportunity we had to relay a message out there that we believe that we can relay and translate enough for everyone to understand, not just people with PhDs. So, again, much love to TSM Solar Observations, aka the Starman. Without you, sir, this channel, and like many others who have contributed to this channel, but definitely special thanks to you for helping me along the way of this journey and my understanding on everything from INSO to solar cycles to Milankovitch cycles to just several things that I never would have looked at if it wasn't for you. And again, I can't be more grateful for your guidance and support that you've given Mari and I over the past several years. So again, much love to you, brother, and thanks again. All right, so now that I've gotten all the feelings out, again, this all comes back to full circle, grand solar minimum. And all these news articles that we're sharing with you guys tonight are all correlated with the events that are happening right in front of our faces. Record tie, Arizona, coolest Memorial Day since 1988. By the way, that was a year after coming out of a minimum, the peak of it anyway. Phoenix recorded the coolest Memorial Day since 1988. Today's high hit 79 degrees. That's about 20 degrees below average. Watching this video here, guys, and give it a look when you get a chance. These people were so excited about grilling, about playing softball, about just being outside doing anything outdoors, because usually at this time, it's unbearable. People find other things to do. They want to stay inside. They want to watch movies. They want to hang out in the air conditioning. I'm not going out in 90-degree weather to play some freaking softball with a bunch of guys with whatever. You know, I get it. 79 degrees is perfect. And let me tell you, not only did they feel that in Arizona, but that was the temperature up here upstate New York. And it was absolutely gorgeous. Spent most of the day sitting outside just enjoying the weather. But that's a lot to be said when you're talking about May 28th, 27th, and tying a low-high record. And then this, Flagstaff, northern Arizona, experienced record cold. Record cold in Flagstaff and several other parts of northern Arizona set records for the lowest high temperature on Memorial Day, which we talked about, but the low temperature was also the big deal. According to the National Weather Service, the high in Flagstaff on Monday was 48 degrees, 3 degrees lower than the previous record set in 1929 at 51 degrees. Yeah. In addition, Flagstaff also set a record for precipitation on May 27 with 0.36 inches, topping the quarter of an inch that fell on the same day in 1992. Page also set a record for rainfall. This is the most recent cold front series of storms. The Flagstaff area is almost 3 inches of precipitation for the month of May. Well above the normal average of 0.55 inches. That's along with an inch and a half of snow. more than double the normal standard. The forecast is expected to get back to normal later this week with highs in the low 70s and sunny skies after a 40% chance of rain tomorrow. Snow, rain, cold, Arizona, May 27th. Grand solar minimum. Sorry, had to be done. Too obvious. Severe weather, more of it, not just in Dayton, but here, look at this. Trees snapped midway. Flooded out streets, flash flooding. This is kind of this was the scene that I saw just about a week or two before Memorial Day here in upstate New York. There is about the similar size hail that we saw in Huber Heights, Ohio last night. Another picture of a supercell. Look at that. Good grief. Excellent for, pictures here, guys. This is Orland Park. More hail. Lots of hail. Tons of hail damage. You know, millions of dollars already, probably billions of dollars in hail damage already this year. Just in the last 15 days alone. Good. Quarter size hail. That's part of what we saw in the Dayton area. There's a little spin up right there. Again, common pictures that we're seeing almost everywhere across the United States. Not just one location, guys. This is everywhere. Hail and heavy rain pound western Nebraska. Hailstones and heavy rain pound in western Nebraska Monday night. Heavy rain flooded parts of North Platte. North Platte has had 3.9 inches of rain since midnight on Sunday. Ogalla has had 2.79 inches. Severe thunderstorm warnings expected to last through midnight last night. Asking people to put their pictures in. While I'm thinking about Nebraska, talking to a GSM contributor, Matt from Nebraska, talking about how much rain he got overnight, the other night, 0.7 inches of rain. The dilemma now is getting the cows out to the pasture to feed on his farm. And the dilemma is that the ground is so saturated that it would be a mess to do it by hoof. And the ground is so saturated that it would be a mess to do it by hauling them to the pasture. So now the dilemma is feeding the cattle that he raises. And we all know what leads after not feeding your livestock. These are real concerns from people all over the United States. The lateness of planting this year is off the charts once again. And I showed Mari a graph the other day that shows exactly how much we're talking about as far as how far behind we are in planting. Guys, we are 8 million acres in planting behind. What state did I show you was that in? Was that Nebraska? The chart that I showed you. Actually, I can pull that up if my phone's over here. It's probably not. So, but anyway, there was a graph that I'd shown you with crop failure or crops not planted yet. So
probably pull it up.
It's a significant increase. At this point last year, I can't remember exactly the area, but it was only 500,000 acres that was left to be planted in 2018 at this point last year. In 2019, that number grew to 8.5 million acres left to be planted. Other states in the Midwest and the central part of the United States are also affected in that regard as well. But as you can see, this is just the last 24 to 36 hours, guys. To me, the map speaks for itself. Flooding, hail, wind, and a little bit of winter in the backside of this storm. May 27th, 28th. 52 tornadoes, over 52 tornadoes in 24 hours, with more on the way. 10 tornadoes were confirmed in Colorado Monday for a total of 19 on Memorial Day weekend. Colorado. Central U.S. under dangerous cycle of severe weather as deadly storm brings historic flooding. Very important, folks. It's all over the country.
From New York, I'm David Begnaud. The central U.S. is stuck in a cycle of dangerous storms that may not stop anytime soon. Tornadoes struck again today in Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, and more may fire up tonight. In the past week, at least 15 people have been killed by tornadoes and flooding. Tonight, rivers are rising to record levels, threatening homes and businesses in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. We begin tonight with Omar Villafranca. He's in Oklahoma.
More severe weather slammed the Midwest this afternoon. Heavy rain and...
I can pretty much just tell you that this has been, it's like it's been on repeat for Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois, now Ohio. The flooding in Arkansas, absolutely historic. Just like what we were talking about the other day in the Delta of Mississippi. That one's almost literally forgotten. No lie. Levees and dams almost at their peak capacity. Just watching these interviews taking place with the water as high as it is, and the fact that it's all over the United States. This isn't some third world country that we're looking at, folks. These are people like me and you, like your neighbors, your aunts and your uncles. I mean, we started kind of tracking some of the damage that was being reported in the beginning of 2019 with storms, about how much that was costing. And I'm telling you, we were billions of dollars into it in the first month of the year. Can you imagine where we're at now? At this point in the year, halfway through 2019, it's got to be close to trillions. All the homeowner claims that we're going to see, the vehicle claims. I know my brother, his house didn't have the damage that we see here, but his car definitely will be totaled, and thousands of more will be totaled. Hundreds of thousands of vehicle claims, millions probably. Millions of homes, insurance claims, farmers, insurance claims, crop damage. It blows my mind sitting here talking to you guys tonight, the frequency of this accelerated weather. It has nothing to do with man-made emissions, and we've proved that several times. We've talked about CO2 rising still to this day, and temperatures across the globe have cooled since 2016 by a little over 0.43 degrees Celsius. Right now, we're 0.44 above baseline. And in 2016, after a warmer, stronger El Nino, we were sitting at a peak of 0.88 degrees above baseline. And right now, we are sitting at 0.44 degrees Celsius above baseline. I guess I could turn the volume down a little bit. That might be a little loud. But the relevance of that is that our CO2 has increased. So man has increased, supposedly, or has it been nature? We know it's nature. The volcanoes that continue to erupt, the amount of ash and CO2 that volcanoes put into the atmosphere is a lot more than what man does. CO2 is higher today. Global temperatures are cooling. Now, how's that working out if the CO2 theory is what warms the planet? And all this severe weather, well, that's obvious. We're getting warm temperatures streaming up Gulf moisture into the very cold jets, the cold fronts that we're getting. The atmosphere is colder, much colder than what it usually is. And just in 1 year, look at how much difference we've seen in severe weather outbreaks. We all know that it has to have a fair share amount of cold and warm air colliding for severe weather outbreaks, tornadic activity as well. Our atmosphere is a treasure trove of cold right now. and the warmer and the more moist air that is met with it. I mean, this is the result, on top of the fact that we have an abundance of cosmic rays in our atmosphere, seeding our clouds, our atmosphere, creating more cloud coverage, and more precipitation, more accumulation as well. That's how all this ties in. Man doesn't do this. SUVs don't do this. This has nothing to do with that. CO2 is a trace gas. Just some more pictures around the world. It's hard to find out what part of the country we're in now without looking at the article headline. Millions under flash flood, severe weather expected to large swaths of the Midwest. Yeah, this is for the rest of this week, not just now. Threat of flooding, areas in the central United States on alert for more than a week of extreme weather that has brought with it tornadoes, fierce winds, and heavy rains. Look at this. 261 tornadoes reported just in the last 11 days. Unreal. So not just Oklahoma, Indiana now, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, all underwater. Tulsa getting worse. Evacuations underway in Arkansas. Fully activated its state of emergency operations center on Sunday morning to respond in rising waters. Anticipated continued flooding along Arkansas. Hey, by the way, flooding is expected now to last well through summer. Well, NOAA said through May is now turning into summer. Deadly tornadoes hits Oklahoma. 2 people are killed. A powerful EF3 tornado touchdown in El Reno, about 29 miles west of Oklahoma City, late Saturday. Guess what? There were more funnel clouds spotted today in El Reno as well. So not once but twice have we seen tornadic activity in El Reno, Oklahoma. And it's just like this map that we see right now. The same areas where we see these storms are continuing to get pounded, especially down here in Oklahoma, guys. This is just ridiculous. You guys seem to be getting it the worst. Over and over, front after front, developing severe thunderstorm after severe thunderstorm. Guys, stick with us. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so let's check out our climate news section. Croptastrophe in the Midwest. Latest USDA progress report signals nightmare scenario. Take a look at this. The last 12 months have been the wettest in the history of the U.S. This has created absolutely horrific conditions for U.S. farmers, thanks to endless rains and historic flooding that has stretched on for months. Many farmers have not been able to plant crops at all, and a lot of the crops that have actually been planted are deeply struggling. What this means is the U.S. agricultural production is going to be way, way down this year. The numbers that I am about to share with you are deeply alarming, and they should serve as a wake-up call for all of us. The food that each one of us eats every day is produced by our farmers, and right now our farmers are truly facing a nightmare scenario. It says here you can view the latest USDA crop progress report right here on this link. According to that report, corn and soybean production is way behind expectations. Last year, 78% of all corn acreage has been planted by now. 78% had been planted by now. This year, the number is just sitting at 49%. That's all corn acreage, not just in Nebraska. Almost 30% below where they should be at this point. The percentage of corn has emerged from the ground is a paltry 19% compared to 47% this time. So the percentage of corn that has started to grow at this point is at a measly 19% compared to a usual 47%. Again, almost 30% increase. We see similar numbers when we look at soybeans. Last year, 53% of all soybean acreage had been planted by now. This year, that number has fallen to 19%. Guys, last year we were talking about crops being late. That was our biggest headline last spring. That and Kilauea. But by the time Kilauea happened, we started seeing farmers hitting the fields starting to get things going. A little bit. So this year, we're at 30% behind in planting in soybean and almost 30% behind in corn. And we don't have any kind of sign of relief to these areas that are desperately in need. The percentage of soybeans that have emerged from the ground is just 5% compared to 24% this time last year. Mari and I were talking about this. People are going to switch to the soybean part of the business. I don't think so. Because only 5% is popping up right now. Corn, at least, is at 19%. The soybean is just 5%. This is getting kind of crazy, folks. ZeroHedge.com is where the story comes from. In other words, we are going to have a whole lot less corn and soybeans this year. Farmers in the middle of the country desperately need conditions to dry out for an extended period of time, but so far that has not happened, and it doesn't look like it's going to anytime soon. He's given an update on Jefferson City tornado, several EF3 tornadoes since Friday of last week. Dayton, Ohio is the latest city to be violated by EF3 tornadoes. What we are witnessing is definitely not normal, and I have a number of readers write me about this recently. The other day, one of my readers in Montana sent me a photograph of a freak May snowstorm that just hit his area. Another one of my readers in Missouri explained that his boss is freaking out because they haven't been able to get soybeans in the ground. All over the country, people want answers, and they are frustrated with the lack of information they are getting from the mainstream media. Yeah, they're suppressing it, guys. Just like they suppress this channel. The view counts. When we go off the air, we feel the love out there, folks. We know who loves us. And we get a large amount of views in a short period of time, and then magically after 2 hours, it goes to nothing. Come on. We know what's happening. This information's getting withheld. So, folks, when you get this, share it as fast as possible. It's not getting out there quick enough. There's people who don't know what's going on right now because they were told that Al Gore said that, hey, we won't see snow past 2013. Okay, so some of these farmers are like, well, I can't put anything in the ground because of all the late year snow. So what the hell is really going on? People are upset. Some of the people that probably fell for the global warming crap are now starting to wake up and realize that we're not warming. We are going through a climate situation, but it's definitely not warming. And the folks who talk about the GSM, Grand Solar Minimum, our main message is number one, longer winters, longer, colder winters, snowy, shorter grow seasons. It didn't say anything about heat going away. It just said shorter grow seasons. What's happening right now compared to last year? Compared to last year. Each year since 2016, our grow season has shortened. And this year, it's skyrocketed as far as how much it's shortened so far. Soybeans are okay to plant this late, going into June. Corn, that window's starting to close. And what kind of corn are we talking about at the end of this harvest? We're struggling to see decent produce now. I know the corn that we had in our local market stores are pretty pathetic. $4 for 3 decent looking ears of corn. And then you go buy the bargain bin, which is pulled out of old Farmer Dan's field. You shuck it yourself and, it's pretty measly looking. How long is it going to take? And guys like this over here at Zero Hedge, Unfortunately, the truth is things are going to get worse. Global weather patterns are dramatically shifting, and there's nothing that the authorities will be able to do to stop it from happening. Finally, somebody who understands that this is all being driven by something that's way bigger than us. Natural cycles. They've been here forever, and they will continue to be here, and nothing will stop them. Period. And the faster people realize this, the quicker we can stop hem-hawing around and get to the real meat of the bone, which is preparing for this, learning to grow, learning to can, learning survival skills once again, folks. People over here at Zero Hedge don't have time for conspiracy theories or fear-mongering. I'd like to think that this website gives decent financial advice. If I'm wrong, please correct me. It's obvious there are people out there who are in journalism that are paying attention, that it's not just happening here in the United States, and that it's starting to get a little bit scary, especially when we look at the numbers and compare them to the years before. And, you know, things like what we've talked about on this channel are happening, just like others in the GS community as well. Switching to a lighter side of this, barely anyone at the White Sox game. Okay, first of all, unfortunately, I am a Royals fan, so terrible year for us. Guys, this is the actual attendance today. Illinois, Chicago. Nobody cares about no freaking baseball. Terrible weather, severe weather on the way. Weren't we talking snow not too long ago up here? And how much longer are we going to see this affect Major League sporting events? Not just baseball, but maybe even football this year. Be interesting to watch to see how the rest of the season plays out for baseball. Each year we keep seeing these freak rainout games and a little bit more than average rainouts. And that number is not up from last year, but it is definitely not going anywhere as far as in decrease. Climate is unpredictable whether you like it or not. That is the truth. Colorado, that's right, folks. We're trying to play baseball here, and there's snow blowing the field. Click on this real quick. Basically, another opinion article that's pointing out what's happening. No one's calling. No one's predicting. This hasn't happened in our lifetime. You know, again, I'm seeing a lot more confusion and frustration being reported about climate now. I don't have that feeling that there is a confidence and consensus of climate change. This is sad. Nest captures baby eagle's death before California or after the California snowstorm, nonprofit says. Thousands have turned to live stream a video of a bald eagle nest for weeks to watch as two baby birds hatched at Big Bear Lake in California. Their mother began to raise them, but Monday, following a tough storm that left the mother eagle crusted in snow, and one of the eaglets had died, according to Friends of Big Bear Valley, the nonprofit that broadcast the video. Nest camera footage shows the other eagles moving around as the young eagle's body lies motionless in the middle of the nest. That is absolutely heartbreaking. The eagle that died was called Cookie. A name the animal was given by kindergartners in Santa Ana who won a naming contest, KTLA reports. He was up earlier but looked weak. 6-week-old birth death. He also seemed less energetic the day before. So sad, but hey, the unpredictability, baseball is not the most important thing when you look at things like this, where now our natural habitat is killing nature itself. They are not ready for this cold snap. This is not the kind of weather that's supposed to be happening right now. This, to me, is a very powerful image when you think about the Crazy Cortez, who we can see in the bottom right hand of this video. A snow crusted bald eagle overlooking its snowy nest in a country that's supposed to be global warming. It's warming because of man. No more snow is going to fall because we're warming, right? And if we don't start practicing these green policies, that we're never going to cool, that we're going to keep warming and keep warming. How ironic is this? These people that are trying to rob you of taxpayer money because they're telling you that you're creating climate change, that you're making the planet warm with the CO2. So if they can't prove CO2 isn't rising the temperature, I'd like to see how they're going to prove that CO2 is causing more rain and more floods and more wind and all that. I'd love to see them turn that one, how they got to transition that one. Because I'm sure they'll try. The CO2 temperature theory is dying. This picture right here speaks volumes. A rare snowstorm hit Arizona this time of year, Northern California. Snow still falling in the Colorados, parts of Wyoming, Montana. But we're warming, right? It's okay, guys. You keep driving your SUVs around, we'll get hot again. Trump administration might re-examine climate modeling. I wanted to share this because I know this is going to make all my libtard friends freak out big time. Trump administration might re-examine the climate modeling. EPA Minister Andrew Wheeler used an overseas gathering of environment ministers this week to hint that the United States might overhaul the way it uses climate data and modeling. 5 days after his assertion was included in an official document from the Group of Seven meeting in Metz, France, it remains unclear if Wheeler's revealed a potential policy to re-examine climate modeling. It's become uncommon for the United States to have its own climate and energy paragraph in multilateral statements. And on Monday, Wheeler broke away from the 6 other nations on issues like Paris Agreement, providing support for poor and climate-affected countries, and overseas investments in fossil fuels. That much was normal. It happened ever since President Trump took office in January 17, but Wheeler added something new, raising concern among the environmentalists that the United States might be formally questioning climate scientists or climate science inside federal agencies. Hallelujah! If you're a reader of this article and they're trying to spin this as a bad thing, you need to really take a look at yourself and ask yourself, why is this a bad thing? Why would this be a bad thing that Wheeler, who isn't a government elected or a government appointed official, who is trying to show transparency to the American people about how climate science policies are made, why would this worry anyone? You, the taxpayers, should be thankful that there are people in this administration who want to make sure before they sign off on some big hefty tax cut or tax break or a tax increase, they want to make sure they understand the science of everything. This whole 97% consensus is horse crap. Science is never consensus. Science is there only to be tested over and over and over again, point blank. So I'm glad the United States is considering changing their 100-year-old climate models. And you know what? I hope they're following the suit of the IBM company that the weather.com uses for their forecast, because they include solar activity as part of their climate models. That's a fact. We'll be right back, guys.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so we get into our weather. Yeah, it's been weather all night. More severe storms will be possible for southeast Wyoming on Monday. Let's start up here. That was today. The next 24 hours, same story. Nebraska, also through the evening as well. I mean, is it a surprise? Winter storm warning advisories for parts of southeast Wyoming. Jeez. Winter isn't over just yet. Winter storm warning in the pink, winter weather advisory in the purple. Amazing we're still showing you these pictures. Oh, yesterday, almost June, up to 16 inches of snow likely for the Wyoming mountains. Wow, 6 to 12 inches of snow, or likely higher amounts of 16 inches is expected in Wind River Mountains before 6 p.m., according to a winter storm warning updated early Tuesday morning. Now, I imagine they see a lot more snow than this in a real winter storm, but the fact that we're talking about 16 inches potential in May definitely warrants a winter storm warning alert for sure. But hey, guys, global warming, right? I mean, it's May 28th, global warming, snow. Okay. More live storms heading through right now as we speak, guys. Northern Kansas, reports of a massive tornado. That was in Pleasant. Oh, what was that? I forgot the name of the city in Kansas, but there was another area, Pleasant something. Kansas just had a tornado activity just a couple of hours ago. Right before we went on the air, they were showing the damage. Tuesday's severe storm forecasts include focus zone from central Texas to southern Iowa. This includes St. Louis, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, and sub-suburbs of Dallas. While large hail and damaging winds and flooding will be the main threats from these storms, danger of tornadoes cannot be overstated. DeLand, Illinois, 2.5 inches. Everest, Kansas, 2 inches in diameter. Monroe City of 1.75 inches, and Circleville, Kansas, 1 3/4 as well. The highest area risk of damaging storms and tornadoes will be northeastern Kansas and northern Missouri. Meanwhile, severe storms are expected to track across the mid-Atlantic and could spit up some tornadoes into Pennsylvania early Tuesday night. More of the same. That's a current look of our radar earlier this evening. That's what's going to look like tomorrow. Severe weather. Flash flood saga continues from the Midwest into the plains through midweek. Record low highs. Sacramento, California, 61 degrees. That's their record breaker there. 60 was the record in 2012. So basically, May 26th was the coldest, highest temperature in the history of Sacramento. 61 degrees was the high. Unreal. Warmth to ramp up in California, Southwest at late week following an unusually chilly weekend. So it looks like we are going to see some normality coming back to the Southwest region after these crazy temperatures. Also, I want to point out here in this map, this area is also going to become a little bit drier as well. We're not seeing the long-term precipitation forecast with a lot of moisture here. So common sense for us here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel and all of you followers out there, drier air, drier weather will accumulate to warmer temperatures, which is what's forecasted here in the near future. So the Southwest is going to get back to somewhat normal, nothing extreme, but just somewhere around average and normal. And let's go ahead and take a look at our GFS maps. First, let's go to Mike's weather page. Check out all of these storm warnings right now across Pennsylvania. Parts of Ohio were in danger. Actually, there was more hail reported today in Salina, Ohio. So after the tornado that took the life of one person and injured 7, you had to deal with hail as well tonight. And of course, I'm sure it was a frightening time after already going through what you've already seen. Here we're looking at flash floods here. Flash flood warnings, flash flood watches. The yellow is tornado watches. Just a big mess right now on this weather map, and the same areas are going through this every night, it seems like. Oklahoma, northern Texas, Kansas, parts of Nebraska, northwestern parts and southeastern parts of Nebraska are affected. Iowa, most of Iowa. I mean, it just doesn't feel like we're getting a break anytime soon. Look at this. This is the recent imagery from our satellite. Just an explosion over Iowa of just precipitation round after round here, and it's just going to get worse overnight. So that is the new area of focus that we're watching right now. Let's go take a live look at windy.com. And we will take a look at our lightning strikes. Right now we're looking at Peoria is getting ready to get slammed. Several severe thunderstorm watches are still in effect, severe thunderstorm warnings. Kansas City, you're finally out of this. Kearney is just now getting out of this as well. Plenty of lightning to go around with these rounds of storms, guys. So let's get right to the meat of the bone. Taking a look at GFS. The pattern that we've seen for the last 7 to 10 days, hanging around again. Not done yet. Wednesday, more intense storms over the same areas of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, parts of southwest Ohio, northern Texas, and parts of Oklahoma once again will flare up. More moisture to Arkansas, Missouri, heading across eastern to the Mississippi, Ohio River. Southern parts of Illinois will see the effects of heavy rain into the northeast by midweek to late week, as heavy rain across northeastern Ohio into western Pennsylvania. Moderate rain showers in the south, and then a bit of high pressure tries to settle over the center part of the United States, trying to keep it dry. And for the most part, it's working. But here we see on June 1st, another system trying to get its act together, but high pressure still dominating. GFS is trying to indicate that these storms that we keep seeing, like what we're looking at right here for June 2nd, is what we're currently going through. It seems to be that there's something not agreeing with some of these models. So we'll have to just keep a closer eye on this. But to me, when you look at this GFS long-term forecast, every other day there is a line of storms developing like this. So here's the 4th, here's the 2nd, there's the 1st. So the 1st, here's that line. 2nd, there's that line. 3rd, there's that line. 4th, there's that line. And the line that I'm referring to, folks, right here, every time. Instant action, every day. Right up and down from Minnesota all the way down to Mexico. And this just continues to go west to east every day. So where are we supposed to find time in the fields? June 5th, bam, another line of storms. Look at that. 24 hours after, the atmosphere is reloading almost every 24 hours. June 6th, here we go. Another fire up of storms that start up on the western side of Texas. This is scary. Every day, the same areas are firing up with storms from June 1st all the way through June 6th. And June 7th, guess what? More storms firing up in that same line, moving further west this time, and then going to the east by the 8th. Now, this is too far out for the GFS to give us exact, but look, it's like a pulse, guys. Every day, that same spot. And there is finally some relief on the horizon for the middle part of the United States, of Texas anyway. Not for the northern plains. More rain showers will move across the area. But the last day of formation of these lines of storms going straight up from northern Mexico through Texas, New Mexico, Colorado. So from June 1st through June 6th, folks out there in the central plains, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. It is going to be a very bumpy ride over the next 7 to 10 days. I'm not so sure about how severe the weather is going to be, but as far as the persistence of moisture that we're going to see. Here is our all the way through June 13th. Where I'm going with this is this picture, every time we show you guys this, almost like once a week, we keep seeing the purples in the same spots and the yellows in the same spots. And you're saying, well, Jake, it's starting to like, this is the third time you showed it and we're not seeing the yellows this time. Well, that's great because we've been showing you the yellows in every 14-day forecast the last 2 times we've shown it. So this is the first time a 14-day forecast is not showing a bunch of yellow, but we know areas like right in here, this is where we cannot have any more than a ½ inch of rain before we see flash flooding. This area right here. And we're expecting anywhere from 1 inch to 4 inches of rain. Over and over and over again. Guys, all I can say is that our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who is affected in these regions of storms, from Dayton, Ohio to Oklahoma City to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is now underwater, parts of Arkansas, Mississippi. There's just too many areas to mention that are experiencing such tragedy right now of loss of property, loss of your whole life workings, gone, and a pattern of weather that doesn't seem to let up anytime soon. Mari, that's all I got for tonight. Did you want to say hello to anybody before we... I know I covered a lot tonight, and I hope I didn't forget anything, but wow, there was quite a bit to go through, and I probably undersold a few things of it.
Well, that, and we have hurricane season to look forward to on top of everything you just spoke of, Jake.
Knocking on the door, yeah, just in 2 days.
Speaking of that, the kid meteorologist stopped by to say hi.
Hey,
I
bud.
love him. He is a little prodigy in progress with the weather reporting. Isn't
Keep
he?
doing what you're doing, bud.
We
He's
really
doing
appreciate
fine.
him popping in. So I had a
Good
bunch
kid.
of notes from the chat because we had a pretty active chat today. I closed out of the document without saving it, so bear with me here. I'm gonna go from memory. Matt Bros is in the chat. You were talking with him, so I just want to say hello to him. We know what he's going through. Where is he from again?
I don't remember exactly what part of Nebraska, but he's out of
struggling
Nebraska.
with his...
That was the one I was telling you about, the cattle feed.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, that's just awful to hear. Ian is providing the comedic relief in the chat. As always, Ian, we do love you. Then people are, ragging on CNN and their climate reporting and blaming CO2 for everything and not really associating the solar influence on the weather. Doug Ellens wants to know, what do you think about tornadoes next year?
I mean, I'm not a channel of prediction, honestly.
I said that to him as well.
I didn't really know that we were going to see the outbreak that we've seen this year, but I guess the more I think about it, with El Nino being a factor and that warm, moist air coming from the Gulf colliding with that very cold atmosphere. Our atmosphere is super cold right now anyway. So I think there's a connection with that, with the severe weather outbreak that we've seen. But honestly, I mean, I'm not into the predictions. All I can tell you is what I've observed. And that's something that's a little bit out of my league, honestly, as far as predicting severe weather next year. Each year is going to add a different ingredient to the atmosphere. So we'll just have to play this one by ear. We're going into uncharted territories right now.
I don't think there's a lot of rhyme or reason with these tornado outbreaks, to be honest, from my research. Like last year was not very active, was it?
Well, again, it could be attributed this year to the fact that our atmosphere is a lot cooler than what it was last year as well. So, I mean, no, last year was horribly inactive. And, so if you thought last year was boring, we thought, well, maybe we'll see more of the same this summer because we had a similar winter and similar late winter going into spring. But we have seen quite the opposite this year from last year.
Bonnie shared what she's seeing in Kansas. Bark has blown off the trees.
Jeez.
So I'm sure there's going to be some interesting footage that we'll be sharing tomorrow.
And Kansas is already windy.
I mean,
by the way, it's normally windy anyway, so that's big when you've got bark flying off the tree in Kansas.
This storm footage is overwhelming to see back to back to back to back to back to back for months on end. So today it took a toll on you, Jake.
I'm not gonna lie,
having to see your hometown
very hard tonight,
ripped apart, and then also you were wondering where your friends and family were, if they're okay, what kind of problems they're experiencing. So it's been a tough day for you.
Yep.
And I appreciate the extra time you took to do this live show and answer some questions. So that's all I really got. There's loads of people talking in the chat. It's hard to keep up with everything. I just want to say hello to everyone. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us. And definitely like and share, get the information out. These views are being suppressed.
Big time. And
people need to know about these flood events. And I was actually discussing with Thor in the chat, Thor Vahala, about the hydrologist, world-renowned hydrologist, speaking about the Mississippi River being in danger of being captured by the Atchafalaya River.
Something
How do
like
you
that.
pronounce that?
No idea.
I don't know. And I'm in the process of researching that. Hopefully we can get a hold of that hydrologist and speak with him about that. It's just, there's a lot of flooding that's not being talked about, a lot of concerns that are going to be creeping up over the next few weeks. Are going to be releasing water from, which dam was that we were talking about yesterday? Hard to keep everything straight.
It's hard to keep it track.
It?
Listen, you know, we talked about the damage from this storm here in Dayton and how ironic some of the damage that happened. You know, there's a lot of concern. This is getting serious because, again, this is happening in our own backyards now. These areas that were hit, some of these parts in Ohio were in areas that families don't earn a lot in income. So these folks are really going to struggle in the comeback process. They already didn't have much in the first place. Now it's going to be even harder for some of these, not all, but some of these folks to recover what they've lost. And it's just one of hundreds of stories that we've told so far this year with the severe weather, the flash flooding, the tornadoes, everything, snowfall, cold, you know. So the story goes on, guys, and we will be back again probably Thursday night with another. Actually, it's more like Friday. It's gonna have to be Friday.
It's up to you, boss.
It's gonna be Friday. Friday night will be our next.
A video unless
yeah, Mario will be producing, but unless we have something like this happening again, we will come in live with any breaking news information. Until then, guys, we will see you again live on Friday night unless further notice needs us to be earlier than that. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will talk soon.